Hey everybody, so in our last video we were talking about solids and I told you that we were going to be skipping planes, and now this video is the one where we are going to talk about planes. So we're not going to do necessarily the same thing as what our points are saying right here, coplanar and non-coplanar points. We're not going to worry about that, identify the relative positions of two planes. But we are going to be doing this one down here where we're going to be finding what two-dimensional shapes can be created then when we're doing cross sections. And first we're going to talk about the definition of a plane. So not like an airplane, but we're actually talking about then an infinitely thin surface. So this here, this picture, is supposed to show what a plane is. Think of it like a single sheet of paper. And so if that sheet of paper is completely flat, that is an example of a plane, although we would consider that all of its sides can extend on forever in every direction. So this plane is actually going to be infinitely long and infinitely wide, and we've got all these different points. N is supposed to be floating above the plane, but then everything else, A, C, D, and B, all of those are supposed to be on the plane. And in this example, P is the name of the plane. Now, if we were to do a slice through a solid, we will then create a plane, which we call a cross section. And that's a two-dimensional shape that is created when a solid is sliced by a plane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to each of these shapes and I'm going to show you what gets created when we cut through it. It's kind of like when you have a loaf of bread, and I'm going to do my best to try to draw a loaf of bread. So there you go, that's a loaf. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut through it. And again, I'm going to try to do my best to show what it looks like when we cut through. So kind of like that, and then it's also going to come down and it's going to go across like that. And that shape then that would be made if we were to do a perfect cut through that loaf would be something kind of like this, like a semicircle and then a square on the bottom. Now for the other shapes that we've got, I'm going to start with this pyramid. We know that we're cutting through right there, and then we can't quite see any of the other parts, but it's going to go through the back. And it looks like what we would make for this one would be a square. And I'm going to try to draw it similarly to how it's drawn in the shape. So square or rectangle is what we would get. In the next one, we have a rectangular prism. And that one also is going to look like a square or a rectangle. Then the next one is that we have a pentagonal prism. Oh, let me try a darker color for this one then. So we're going to kind of go there. And so we get the pentagon. I realize I didn't label my prior one, so rectangle. Then if we continue down here, this looks like we are going to get a triangle. Another rectangular prism, if we did a vertical cut through it, then it's going to come down like this, it's going to come across. So this time we're going to get a tall, skinny rectangle. And then for the last one, the cylinder, if we did a slice through it, then we're going to get a circle out of that. So So that's the idea that we're supposed to have then with these cross sections, is that it's going to be an infinitely thin slice going through the figure. So what I was going to have us do then, if we were still in school, this was going to actually be a work day. I think trying to just ask you regular questions gets to be kind of tricky, and so what I was going to have you do was I was going to have you try out um, this here. You were going to go to a website, the Shodor website, and we were going to do an activity with that. And so I'm going to demonstrate here in this video what that was going to look like. I've also attached the worksheet. The activity, this here, you can consider this then to be the homework. I'm going to help you with some of the questions, and then I want you to try to answer the rest on your own. And you're going to use the Shodor website in order to do that. So what we need to do is we are going to go to a web browser. Now I've already opened it, but what I want you to do is you're going to type in Shodor cross section, and you can see since I've already searched it, that's the one that appears for me. So I'm going to select that, and then you just need to click the first link that you find, and it will take you to something that looks like this. So we're going to use this program then to help us see all the different cross sections that we have. In the first one, over on the left side here, you can see that it's selected to be a double cone. And when I change all of the shapes, now we have a cone, a cylinder, a pyramid, and a prism. So according to the worksheet, what I wanted you to do is I wanted you to start with a cube. So let's go. To make a cube, we need a prism, so I've already got prism selected. Then the next part is that I need to figure out how to change it so it is going to become a cube. This bottom slider is going to change the number of faces on the lateral surface. So what we're going to do is we want to reduce that down to be 4. And right now, that shape that I've made definitely looks like a cube, so that should be good. Now here's what the other sliders do. This one is going to move the cross section kind of like that. The next one is going to rotate it almost like it is picking one side that's going to be down and one side's going to be up, and it's just rotating in a circle. And then this one here just raises and lowers your slice. So the first question that I had in the worksheet then was asking, name the shape of the cross section formed when a cube is cut by a horizontal plane. So we need to go to this, and we need to move our cross section so then it becomes perfectly horizontal. So I'm just going to play around with some of these, and I noticed that this top one was the one that I needed to move in order to get it level. And then Z, I'm moving Z, nothing is happening, so that is good. This looks like our answer. And if we take a look at this graph then that's on the right, it appears that we have either a square, or I'm tilting my head slightly, and it looks more like a rhombus. It doesn't quite look like we have perfect right angles, but I would accept either, honestly. Since it's a cube, it is supposed to be a square, but if you prefer to say that it was going to be a rhombus, I would accept that too. Then for the second one, it says a vertical plane, and I'm giving you a hint. There are supposed to be 2 answers for this. So we're going to go back to our shape. We're going to rotate in order to get a vertical line. So I'm going to adjust it like this, and I think that is perfectly vertical. And right now, the shape that I have appears to be maybe a square again, but we need to be careful. And I'm going to use the rotate feature to help us see it a little bit better. There we go. When I rotate it, notice now how I go to both vertices, so I'm able to move this as well. I can see that the left and right hand sides of my cross section go perfectly into the vertices, and it's along an edge here as well. And in my graph on the right, I notice then that that is a rectangle because the top and bottom goes to about 45 and negative 45, and then the right and the left happen to go to 60 and negative 60. So one of the answers is definitely a rectangle. Now I told you that there were two answers, so let's try to find the other one. I'm thinking now, let's rotate this. And I think when we get to about there, oh, sorry about that. I had it and then I lost it. About there, it's close. I'm not quite perfect yet. But what is going to happen is that if you can get this lined up perfectly, and I'm trying to rotate this, I think some of you might have fun just spinning this. I'm trying to get it perfectly in the middle, but what's supposed to happen, the graph on the right isn't perfect here for me, unfortunately, but what is supposed to happen is that we are supposed to get a square as one of the shapes as well. And so maybe this will help if I try to level it out at the bottom. Oh, I don't think I'm going to ever get it just right. It's a little touchy, but what's supposed to happen is that you are supposed to get a square for a answer as well. So rectangle and square. And then for this last one then, we need to do a diagonal plane. And I've told you now that there are 5 answers. So you're going to have a lot of fun playing with this one. I'm going to try to orient this so it's back to at least somewhere kind of where I want it to be. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it back to where I want, but yeah, we'll keep it like that. So we need to make a diagonal one. So, okay, that is a diagonal, and that cross section is clearly a rectangle, so we know rectangle is one of our answers. Then I'm going to move it around, so maybe I want to raise it up like this. So far it still looks like it's just a rectangle. Still a rectangle, still a rectangle. Okay, so that didn't really tell us much. So let's try moving some of these others. I'm going to try this one here. Now remember, it's supposed to say diagonal. So this one is kind of making it more level and then changing it to vertical. So we probably don't want to be touching this either. And instead, I'm going to try rotating around the Z. And I start noticing we can make a triangle. So there's another shape for us. Now let's keep rotating and take a look at what we've got here. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 5 sides. It's not a very nice looking one, but we've made a pentagon. So let's keep moving some of these. And let's see, I can maybe rotate it so it's, I don't know how well I'm rotating it. I should maybe just stop messing with that, I suppose. Okay, if we continue then, look at that. There we have a trapezoid. So there's another shape. And now I told you there was supposed to be one more. So let's just keep moving this around. Well, let's see. We've already had a pentagon because this is still a 5-sided shape. But I'm thinking, what do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've made a hexagon. And there you go. We have 5 different slices that we could make through the cube when we use a diagonal plane. So this is the idea that you're supposed to get then for doing these questions, is you're just supposed to continue with the Shodor website and try to figure out how can you position these looking for. So I'm going to go back. The next one was just asking for an equilateral triangle. So just keep playing around with these, keep moving them, and see if there's a way that you can make a triangle. My hint for you is think back to how we made the triangle earlier. So there. and just keep playing around and see if you can adjust that to turn it into an equilateral triangle. So that's pretty much just what you were going to do for cross sections. This is what it was going to look like if we've been doing this in school. So pretty much you just gotta finish out this worksheet, just have fun messing around with the Shodor website. That's basically it. So thank you for listening, everybody. Have a good